sound to cancel it out. Look
Uh,
out, sonar blaster.
if you could let the guild know, and we'll
Yeah.
be ready to
I think
roll.
Kim already did that.
Oh, nice. Before we were live?
Yeah, he didn't link it though.
Careful typing during the episode too. That's coming through.
Okay.
All right. So let me retweet this real quick. And we should be ready to roll. Oh, what a day. All right. Let me know when you're ready, Kim, and we'll get it going.
I'm good to go.
Dang it, Jaw just sent me a message. Hold on, let me make sure this isn't something important.
You can't be streaming on Thursday at this time. This is...
Perfect. Nope, we're good.
All right.
No, I asked him. I was like, short notice. Got to do the show quick. All right. But what am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting something. Oh, well. Doing it live. This is just for me. Welcome to Warcraft Reloaded, a podcast brought to you by Mash Those Buttons, covering World of Warcraft Classic, TBC Classic, and its community. I am Bobby, also known as BlazzinBob, and today we're joined by Ryan, aka Cognitive Pit. How you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good. We're a day early. I don't know if I should be tired or awake, so we'll just pretend I'm very awake.
Yes, we are a day early. We are also joined by KimJongOOM. How you doing? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back. I listen regularly, as you guys know. I'm always in the comments section, so it's nice to be back on.
It's definitely nice to have you on. So to let everybody know, we are recording a day early. We're recording right before Raid, so it's going to be interesting. Had some stuff come up this weekend, was not going to be able to record, and we're also missing Mel. Mel is unable to make this time too, and it's unfortunate, but the show must go on. So this week we're going to go through reviews and emails. We got quite a few emails this week, so we're not going to be able to hit them all, but we will try to make sure to save them for that section next week. Then after that, we'll go over what we've been doing in WoW lately. Then we are going to jump to the future, where we've already done tonight's raid, and that's where Yip will give you the raid progress. Then we'll jump back to the past, we'll give you the news, and we will then ended out the show talking about the guild bank and how Kim runs it and how he's been able to supply us with unbelievable amounts of consumes, even gear, I mean, enchants, you name it. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good show. Yep, let's jump into reviews.
All right, I'm going to start out with something that's kind of a bummer. I don't know if Bob forgot, probably, and I didn't put it in the notes. But we had something interesting happen this last week. Before I jump into the wonderful support that we get, my arenas partner in our guild, actually, although I don't think I've ever mentioned him by name on the podcast, got a incredible message from, I suppose, a listener. Someone reached out to my arenas partner who does not raid with us to let him know that our guild doesn't deserve to have a podcast because we're only 8 of 10, and decided to harass one of our guildmates about this. So I wanted to point out something really quick in case it wasn't clear in our content. One, we don't run a podcast guild. We don't have a guild that is centered around our podcast. Every person
In fact,
that we
most of
raid
the people
with,
probably don't even listen to it. So
exactly, we are random people. I'm an officer in our guild. Bob is a raider in our guild. So reaching out to random people is absurd. If you want to harass anybody, you know our in-game names. It is absurd to reach out to members of our guild. We offer you some insight into our guild and the people. We bring Kim on, who's from our guild, and we do that to give you insight into what we do, and we would appreciate it if you did not abuse that power. So, that's the first super bad experience we've had. But I did just want to clarify that we're not a podcast guild. We're not some kind of famous people who, we have some kind of amazing guild. We're just regular WoW players.
Yep.
And let's
Speak
dive
for
into some.
yourself.
And I would add on to that is that this show, the whole design of it is your average player, and maybe to some average players we appear above average, but this was never going to be a show about this is the best way to do this is the best way to do that. And honestly, we never even intended on talking about our raid progression. It was just going to be news and different, you know, like philosophical questions. It just happened to be entertaining for a lot of people who wrote in. So when we're going through progression, we talk about it. But we've never claimed to know it all. We never will know it all. And that's just the way the show is. If you're here to find out the best ways to do something or the cutting edge, you're in the wrong place. And it's okay to not like it, but please leave if you want to send hate to me or Yip or KimJongOOM, but
I'm okay with this.
don't send it to anybody who hasn't been on the show, because they don't deserve that. Another caveat: we don't mention Vargflocken, the name of the guild, that often. Like, we talk about our guild progress, but we don't actually say the name every episode or even every other episode. So it's interesting that he actually knew the guild name to come
Yeah,
harass.
it's just odd that it's a listener. It's definitely someone who's listened to a couple, but obviously we're not that good. I play a prot warrior, so that should be clear from the get go. Uh, but on to some people who make us very happy and are wonderful listeners that we definitely appreciate. The first review. Great advice and lots of fun. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts during my commute to work. And first, let me say this is the best TBCC. Okay. I like TBCC podcast out there by a mile. A great mix of real, down to earth advice and fun stories from people who are not Uber sweaters. Unlike some content creators, you guys don't show off, whether it's Bob's ill advised investments. That's really funny. Or else, record setting numbers of death. It's great to know you guys are real people too.
It's actually
I-
perfect for what we just talked about. I didn't even think
Yeah.
about that.
It's really funny. I main an enhancement shaman and a BM hunter, and my guild is 8 of 10. I feel like we tend to be around where Bob and Mel are in terms of progression. I think that covers the majority of 2 to 3 night raiding guilds. I think so too. That 8 of 10 seems like where a lot of us are. It's great to hear advice about similar issues we are facing and how your guild handled them. I wish more podcasts talked about real raiding instead of Twitch raiding. It is also nice to hear anecdotes about the old days of WoW. I played it on launch. It is a great shot of shared nostalgia when there's no one else around to talk to. My wife promises she cares, like when I told her when I got the Prince bow, but I think she might have been feigning interest. Finally, I want to say I wish more people played TBCC, so more people could have fun listening to you guys every week. For the Alliance! Thank you very much for that review.
Fantastic
and I'm
review.
Sure
You
if
entertained
you showed
us.
her, have you showed her the bow? Because it looks pretty rad too. It's not, the stats are great, but that Phoenix bow, I'm sure she'll appreciate the aesthetics too. But thank you so much. The next review. Great listen. Hey guys, just want to say how much I enjoy listening to the podcast. I've been listening for the past few months and it's been great. I would love to hear a discussion about the pros and cons of dual wield arms versus two-hand arms for PvP or PvE. Keep up the awesome work and good luck with your into your raiding guild and going 10 from 10 for the horde. Wow. And then some symbols showed up as like the
I think
letters.
it's okay.
And
So this is a review from Australia, and they come into. I use Chartable.com to chart our rankings on iTunes and stuff, and it shows reviews from other countries. And so I think he was doing some sort of you know,
Australian emoji of
yeah, that
some
doesn't
sort,
come up
perhaps.
through that
Is it the
Yeah.
site.
upside down smiley face?
No, so easy. So easy. I held that one, Ben. But that was from Lunchbox Lock on Arugul. So thank you so much for that. I still can't get over when they finally added in more servers to Battlegrounds. So we started seeing like Oceanic players. And I remember being like, Arugul, I've never seen anyone from Arugul. And now suddenly I'm seeing them nonstop. It's like, oh, they added
It was
more
like,
It's
servers.
like a
yeah, it
vegetable or
was like
something.
for a week or two as long as it lasted, and then they switched them back to their own
It
servers.
might have been even shorter. I just remember being like, who are these people? And then we have a couple of emails here. Like Bob said, we had to save some for next week. But the first one word, outstanding. I listen every week and really learn a lot from you guys. You keep me entertained while I'm at work, and the three of you have such a great dynamic. You keep the show interesting. I really love No Hit Jerome. The guy has so much energy and focus, writing in PvP whilst joining your podcast. Reminds me a lot of Steel Wolf. He does
He
remind me, yeah,
does.
that chaotic
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, it's
Uh, please
apt.
make sure, yeah, please make sure you have these guys back again. Could you imagine the chaos if you'd have them both on the same show? Yeah, that'd be a lot.
No.
Mel's a babe and she rocks. No charge for that one, Mel. Uh, Photo Horde Mon, don't you know? Uh,
For the
your
Horde
best
Mon.
run.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm choosing to for your best run, the Hunter Grobulus. Jamaican for your best run if you see me coming.
Dude.
Thank you for that review. And I agree. There's a lot of chaotic energy. I have a feeling I know it was a lot of fun. And I think if you tuned in live, you probably got the best experience of just this chaotic podcast we ended up having.
Well,
Um,
well, we actually had to use the VOD audio, so it
yeah.
was chaos. It'd be like everybody talking over, yelling over. It was really unfortunate that we lost the audio and weren't able to like make that a more pleasant experience for everybody. But
Yeah,
if
I think the audio listeners were in for a surprise compared to our normal.
if
But the
Steel
live was a
Wolf,
lot of fun.
it was a blast, and we were like helping him through his raid at the time, and I know some people didn't like that, but it was kind of fun for us to help him get, his raid down and like help him with different strategies. But I will say there's no possible way you could have them both on the same show. The levels of audio would just keep getting higher and higher. You just wouldn't be able to do it.
It'd be like a hall of mirrors, man.
Yeah. Uh, all right, let's see. So a couple more here. Review Boomer Style from Sweden. Hey guys. Actually, it says hi guys. I'm a liar. I'm enjoying your pod through Spotify. So consider this a review Boomer Style. I got a real busy real life, but as a background as a real old school hardcore raider. Played all the way through from the first closed beta when mobs were hissing boxes. You are all nice to listen to, like you are guildies from another dimension. When I'm raid logged and working, you make my day better. It's like comfort listening. I am pushing 50 and a dad gamer. Our guild is mainly vanilla era veterans and hence a bit sweatier than you guys. Really? I it's a bit sweatier. Interesting. I feel like dad gamers have the opposite reputation. We do all raids, including phase 1, on one night when we raid log. Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. They are
Well,
sweaty.
something also that I learned when I went to Stockholm is that a bunch of different Swedish people told me that it's very normal for men to like stay at home with the children. It's
Game hard.
well, it's just like it's a very normal thing in their culture, and so maybe they're all stay-at-home dads, that are actually gaming. So maybe they
Yeah,
could be super sweaty.
we gotta pull on anything that gives them a reason to be better than us. Any
I'm
excuse you
definitely.
can find. Like they're probably playing like 12. They're practicing all day long.
I just thought that was a really cool thing about Sweden when I visited. You would
Yeah.
see like two guys walking with like like strollers and stuff. I mean, it was pretty cool from a guy from Kansas City.
I am the only healing priest. Pink parsing and enjoying TBC very much. I don't want to be rude, but you guys make me much less chilled with the game. You all have a balanced look at the game that I think is really nice. Friendship and community first. Mel, I don't give a shit about logs. Mel's, I don't give a shit about logs is a blessing as well as the dying. It is fun to pour through those logs. Love it and gives me a rash at the same time. If I ever move across to NA, I'll join you guys. I got one question. Is her guild of Swedish origin? It sounds like Vargflocken, which means wolf pack in Swedish.
We've told the story before.
Yeah, so our
Vargflocken.
yeah, it is Vargflocken. That is actually our guild name. It means wolf pack. Our original GM is Swedish, so when our guilds joined originally, way back before I was even in it, a Swedish name was chosen, and then we ended up having to change it, which we've talked about before. It was originally Varglian, and it was switched to Vargflocken. But yes, we're the wolf pack. It sounds cooler in other languages. Personally, if I was going around just calling myself the wolf pack, I'd feel a little different, but Vargflocken works. Many thanks. This old head approves. Atos from Golemag EU. Thank you so much for that review. And yeah, apparently in Sweden, guys, dad gamers are actually the sweatiest gamers, and they put us all to shame. So things are a little reversed there, but that's pretty awesome. I hope that I'm at that level when we're playing Classic Fresh again in 20, 30 years. I hope that I'm an elite level player. And then finally, hey guys, just want to say I love the podcast. The different points of view from all three types of classes are insightful and helpful to me as a tank. I drive for work, and the pod makes every shift much more enjoyable. For the Horde, Sarah on Earth Fury. P.S. After listening to your raid progression on Lady Vash, I can confirm pulling her down to the pillar is not hotfixed. What my guild does is time Curse of Doom on her to go off as she is going back to the center, and we can normally get her down another few percent. That's really awesome. I took your advice last night, and you'll hear soon from future me that we downed Lady Vash, and maybe we used her strategy. I don't know yet, but future me knows, and you'll find out very soon.
Well,
but thank you.
I do want to add a little thing to that. I wonder if their DPS is higher than ours. The reason I say this is because all the locks do put Curse of Doom on, but we put it on right away, and it definitely goes off before 70%. So,
well, it says they time it, so maybe they're specifically timing it.
Yeah, like that seems to be hard, because then you would have to hold DPS, like watching the Dooms, because we would have to cast Doom later.
I don't think there's anything wrong with holding DPS though, because it's like the beginning of phase 2 is really boring. I mean, I feel like everyone regens all their mana back for the most part, and like if we can survive, I can see it being
basically
good. Having a 1% death or wipe makes me want to try it.
Well, what I was saying is if you have enough DPS to have to stop for us to Doom right at pull, and then people having to stop DPS before that Doom goes off, I think it's a much easier strategy than if you pick a time to Doom, because then it's just extending the. So I'm just curious if you want to write back in and like tell us maybe like if you do have enough DPS to get her to 70% before a minute, because ours is going off. I'm trying to remember. It might be going off right like at like 74. So it might.
I don't know if that's even possible. A minute? How long is that first phase for us? I feel like they're delaying their Dooms. I don't think they're.
I'm trying to think. I think our Dooms go off at like 70, somewhere in the mid 70s%. So maybe.
Okay, maybe it isn't that crazy.
We could just wait we could just wait till you actually get the pull over there before we pop the Dooms on. Because the Dooms we always pop early because they don't really do any aggro at all, you know. So except if no one's hitting the boss, like
I would assume it's easier to pop it just a little bit late and then hold DPS even just for a little bit. But definitely interesting and something to look into because we were unsuccessful with our Vash pull to the side. Just didn't even seem worth it at that point. But thank you guys so much. That was a lot this week, and we'll have more next week as we save some. But we always appreciate it, and it really offsets the kind of negative tone to begin with. We really appreciate you guys writing in and all your kind words.
It always gives us something cool to talk about, and sometimes you guys entertain us, which is awesome. So, well, let's move on to what we've been doing this week. What have you guys been doing this week? Anybody can jump in.
I'm a filthy raid logger. I Diablo 2's out. I'm trying my best, but I'm just a raid logger. I've been redoing my gear. This morning I spent like another hour just like I've every piece of gear in the game, other than like the really good pieces, obviously, that are in this phase. We haven't killed the end bosses. But like other than that, I have so much DPS gear and I've got so much tank gear. I'm just like reorienting everything. Put on some DPS bracers, the bracers of like eradication or something that have hit on them. It should be a pretty nice threat boost, but again, I think it'll be good for Vash, but on Morgrim, I just go full mitt, so won't be able to test it out to the full extent tonight, but I've just been messing around with my gear sets and getting ready for raid, and outside of that, there's not much for me to do unless I want to actually make money for my mount, which I don't want to do. So, one day.
What
That's all
about
I've
you,
done.
Kim?
I feel like at this point, Yip's mount is kind of like his Thunder Fury. Too soon?
Yeah, it's what's funny is my mount is my Thunder Fury because I spent 5,000 gold on these stupid Arcanite bars that are worthless.
Holy shit,
Like
you're right.
this is like how much money I spent.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
literally
Yeah,
You
oh my
didn't
God.
Yep.
liquidate them, did you?
There was
Not
no
in
way to
time.
liquidate them. They were worthless at the end of
Oh,
vanilla,
shoot.
Yeah.
I
and I
didn't even
wasn't gonna
think about
liquidate.
Dropped
that.
Yeah.
significantly, yeah.
Yeah, they were by the time Nax, by like a month into Nax, they were worthless, and I was still trying to get my Thunder Fury. So there was like nothing I could
Mhm.
do.
Oh my gosh, and that's such a bummer too, because you could have just waited to see if you got it and not gotten the
Yes.
bars. Oh my gosh, that hurts, man. If it makes you feel any better, I had to
Welcome to
sell.
my reality.
If it makes you feel any better, I had to sell a lot of the stuff that I had saved up, all the different resist gear for pretty much cost, and it looks like the two stupid uh, arcade breastplates that I have left, I'm gonna have to sell for a loss. Like even if I can sell them, and so that's a bummer. So yeah, I feel you,
Yeah,
but
I might
yeah,
buy
that
them for
hurts.
luck. If
Well,
you
I
if
can,
you want to message me a
I
under the
can,
table deal.
yeah. We'll talk about that after the podcast. But right now, what have you been doing, Kim, this last week?
I have just been gunning it hard on the G-Bank stuff. Yeah, I've just been spending and cranking out a bunch of stuff, and I'm starting to learn a little more about the like the different types of profession, like craftables that you can end up putting out there for gold, and then like keeping whatever portion would be your profit, right? So you end up, you know, but that's like a lot of weird head math, and that's basically what my week has been like. For those of you who don't know, I went from the last time I was on this podcast, which is quite some time ago actually. I went Shadow, which has been a ton of fun because I used to play Shadow back in original vanilla, um, and I was PvP only. Um, I I started raiding for the first time, like ever really, with Vargflocken. So finding out the shadow side of things has been really really cool. And I already had a lot of the gear that I needed because I am kind of an insane person and decided to like work out smite spec.
Yeah,
So
are you
there was a lot of
embarrassed by your arc? Anyone listening to the podcast would have heard like, I'm trying out Smite Spec. Next time Kim comes on, I'm Shadow now.
That's how disastrous it. Yeah. Um, yeah, the smite spec was extremely fun and I think appropriate for Kara. You know, where we could basically one heal, one tank stuff. it's totally appropriate.
I mean, it
To
was the
toss
time
hot
to
fields in the
try
hard
it.
fights and stuff. Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's no way I'd want to like try that without really, really doing all the proper theory crafting and everything in SSC or TK. Like, it just would be a little rough. Although places where we might want a sixth healer, it'd be okay. But like, I feel like Vampiric Embrace does enough of that. But
I feel like it's something
anyway,
you could actually give a true college try to in Wrath when every buff, almost every buff, is raid wide. And then you could
yeah,
actually give it a true shot because you do have to like create even in Kara, you had to create a group that really, pushed
yeah,
towards
that
it.
maximized. Right, right, right.
Well, for me, I've been just playing. You're going to find out about a raid progress, but on Tuesday night, I had an exceptionally lucky night. I got the wand from Arcane chick. What's her name? Arcane girl.
Solarian.
Soul. Yeah.
Well, it's Arcane Girl now.
So I got that wand, replaced my last blue. So now I am technically full bis or better phase 4, which is really neat. The wand was a huge upgrade. I did have 2 really good blue wands, one hit and one crit, but like they still were blue and not even anywhere close to this wand. And then I got the boots of blasting pattern and was able to craft that night with some help from Kim and Skeet from our guild.
No help from me.
Yeah.
Just so we're all clear.
We got 2 DPS pugs and we made it pretty good through. I had a nether, got my second nether we needed. Then the guild bank provided the mats to do the cooldowns for the cloth, and so I was able to craft it that night. Got my boar speed on them, and I am ready for raid tonight. That's been really cool. And then I also, don't hate me, but I've been a rogue. I've worked up 2 different rogues in my time, and so I have a second account, and I have my new rogue that's going to be my Wrath main, and I went ahead and did the boost. Well, 2 things on that. First off, the boost gear that they give you is atrocious. You look like, I don't know how to explain it. You look like the Wicker Man from the Dorothy Karazhan fight. I mean, it is noticeable, super noticeable. So I was embarrassed to go into town to try and buy new gear because I was like, they're gonna all know I boosted. And so that's one thing. But then the other thing is, I haven't played Rogue, for 13, 12 years since I quit in Kata. And I forgot how few freaking spells they have. I mean,
Right?
literally on each page is like one page. Like each tab is like one page. And I was like, I completely forgot. Yes, you have to use them at the right times and stuff, but really, the kit is quite small compared to Warrior and Locke, which I have been playing throughout Classic and TBC. So that was interesting for me to remember.
I mean, on my rogue, after I turned, originally I turned 60. I guess my rogue's still 66, but like after I turned 60, I was looking at my side icons, and I was like, I feel like I'm missing something because I have like all these keybinds that aren't filled in. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God, I guess this is where like focus macros go, or like Arena 1, Arena 2, like
Yeah, I was just.
I don't know. It's bizarre to me because on both the priest and the warrior, I'm like running out of hotkeys, right?
Yep. And then,
yeah.
yeah, then Warrior, you have the 3 different bars. And I'm just sitting there going, I could get everything I need and not even have to, like, put a bind on my mouse. This is going to be sweet when I start playing this. Like it was kind of exciting. So, yeah. So I'm kind of excited to get him moving. I don't know what Mel is going to play, but we're going to work up some other characters. It's going to be a slow burn though. He doesn't have to be ready until Wrath. So it's just going to be like, casual, using a lot of rest. So that's what I've been up to.
You know, Bob, I feel like they like purposefully give you like hobo looking gear as a boosty because like it's just to shame you into getting better shit, you know? It's like, hey,
I don't know.
Are you sick of being ugly?
It's
Go
I
get
want
some
to
better
horrible.
bring up
gear.
again. I don't know. I, I I don't know if you guys remember, but the Mage when they first released the boost, or maybe it was like the beta of the boost or something. I think it was the TBC beta. You could put a boost on that character on those servers. And the Mage boost was just these white robes
And a white
Holy shit,
hat.
that
and
was
a
sick.
white hood. And they changed it before release, so they had to tone down some of the exciting clothes
I wonder
options
why.
they
Uh,
accidentally allowed in the game. So they just made everyone. They're like, let's make everyone look just ugly and like they came out of the dirt.
oh yeah, I've never even seen the model. It must be something they grabbed from later expansions or something because I've never seen any of these pieces, and it was just like, oh, I need to change. So right now, BlazzinBob is hiding in a random building in Stormwind until I can get him some replacement stuff because I'm not walking into Outland looking like that.
Yeah, and what appears to be a paper bag.
All right,
Luckily, like of the bandit gear is so overpowered. I assume for rogues also. For druids, it was nuts. Just like all the level 60 of the bandit gear that like the greens that drop were just insanely static.
I'm just hoping people are still selling those for cheap instead of trying to get the enchanting
Uh,
mats. So
yeah.
I'll just have to see. All I really care about is I just want two really good weapons, and if I can do that, like everything else, I'll just get quest rewards. There's so many quest rewards and stuff.
You know, if you're planning on going NG on him, you could always just get one of the Hierophant random roll goggles.
I've already
It actually
started.
procs.
Yeah, I've already started mining, and I'll be doing mining as I work up jewel crafting, and then possibly in Wrath I'll drop mining after I level for engineering. But the
That
rogue's
makes sense.
not going to be doing anything besides just joke stuff in this expansion. Hence why I'm not worried about working it up.
You
But
can also get lock picking up and make some nice little side cash on it.
I'm definitely going to get that up, and yeah, they start you at 290, which I still think is a
What?
little unfair.
Wow.
Yep.
That's super unfair. I had to go to like random like Hillsbrad Mountains and
Did you know
the
how
random
I
places
did
in the
it?
world.
I
Like the
don't
gate,
know.
right?
Well, yeah, does that still work in classic? Because my two
I'm not
rogues,
sure
I
actually.
originally worked them both up by just lock picking the gate from is it Lokmodan to to
To Burning Steps or
yes, yeah,
yeah,
burning
yeah, yeah.
steps.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just literally just failed at that. Worked it all the way up from like one to max. Just doing that, failing over and over again. I don't know if that works in classic, but it definitely worked in TBC when I worked up the rogue, like late TBC and early vanilla. So I don't know if that works, but let's go ahead and move on to the future. And we're back from the future. I hope what Yip had to tell you was good news.
Wow. That was pretty exciting to listen
Yeah.
to, huh? Wow.
Super
Vash.
crazy what happened.
Who would have thought we would have killed Vash and Kael'thas on in one night, our first night of Kael'thas.
Is
Good
that
job, everybody.
is that the prediction? Well,
Hey, if we one shot Lady Vash, you never know.
unfortunately,
And
everybody else knows, but we don't.
true.
All right. Well, with that being said, and now that we're back to the past, let's move on to the news. So, in the current news, everybody, I hope you know, but the All Hallows End is in. It has started. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but you should definitely check it out. First off, the candy is usable in raid. There is four different types. There's melee and I believe ranged hit. There is defense. There is spell power, and there is healing. You can get these at any inn once a day. They last for 25 hours real time, not game time. 24 hours. They stack up to 4 times, and they can be used with any other buff that you use in raid. So, should definitely get these because once it stacks for spell power, you get like 24 spell power, 44 healing power, I think 20 defense and 20 hit rating. So they're definitely worth it to just run. At least grab a few before raid. They're random. You can trade them. You can't mail them, but you can trade them. So yeah, and just be wary when you trade them. If you trade them to somebody that has stacks with a lower amount of time, it will take the lowest amount of time when stacking together. That was a bug that you could take advantage of before to refresh the time. That definitely doesn't work here. But have you guys gotten any candy trick or treating?
I mean, I would just bank your current stack if anyone's about to trade you any.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You can I don't know if it'll work forever, but someone in our guild, Blunders, mentioned that you can bank your stack, get new ones, and then stack your new one on top of your banked ones and refresh the duration, I think,
Oh,
on
interesting.
them. Yeah, like the newest
I
one,
think
if
that
you
worked
stack
for
it.
the Valentine's candies, right?
Well, with the Valentine's candies, the time didn't run down when you were logged off. So you could put them on an alt and then just wait till you needed them. But with
Yeah.
these, the ticker's counting when you're logged off. It's like way too big of a hassle.
But you also
I
need to
use
trade those.
I used the Alar or for Alar I used the speed candies, which was kind of nice. You can get like 16% speed without using up like your potion slot, and I don't think it saved us anything. But it was kind of interesting to have that little speed boost of running. But other than that, they're kind of nice. They're just little buffs. They're pretty small.
Yep. And then, I mean, 24 spell power is like the same on my awesome wand that I just got has 23. So it's definitely a jump. It's the same, it's 24 as opposed, it's like an enchant on gloves. So it's definitely nothing to turn your nose up to. And
Yeah,
for us tonight, especially on Vash, needing that just one little extra thing could be nice. And then there's other stuff going on. We're not going to go through all of it. You can check the notes for the link, but there's some good ring drops. They're on par with like Kara. So don't be expecting like I don't think it's as good as the trinkets you were getting from Brewfest. Did you want to say something yet?
I don't like that the Horseman's reigns are dropping.
Oh, I was getting to that.
Yeah, sorry.
So we 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 did theorize way back when, because initially the reigns of the horseman did I don't know if that's the name of it, but the headless
Horseman's reigns.
yeah, the mount that is a horse that flies and walks was never actually dropped in TBC because Halloween didn't align up with when it was put in at the very last patch of TBC. So you all saw the first one in Wrath, but
Yeah,
we
the
theorized
2.4 comes out, right, in, like, the middle of summer or something, or spring, before Wrath comes out, and then October, like, 2 or 3 weeks before Wrath comes out, the mount unlocks with Hollow's End, which means until Wrath pre-patch was out, there wasn't a flying horse like this in the game. But now it's out from the beginning of TBC, and that's
well,
not right.
and we did. I mean, I don't know if it was you and me, but it was for sure me thinking it might just be in because we were
Yeah,
using the
it's
last patch.
Yeah, which I had assumed it would be in. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan unless they're thinking that TBC isn't going to last another Halloween. in which case this would be the only TBC Halloween to get them out. And I would be
Hmm.
okay with that. I would be okay if
Interesting.
that was the case. But if they're planning on like 2 full Halloweens, like we're gonna be in like Zillimon next Halloween or something, it's kind of like lame. But if this is the only chance you have till Wrath, it's fine. But it is just really early for a mount like this to be in the game.
Feels like a higher drop rate than I remember back in the day too, but maybe people are just smarter and faster at killing it and more in doing it every day as opposed to back then. But it's just I tried to get it all the way through Kata and still was never able to get it. So I don't know.
Well, that's how we felt about the Brewfest mounts. It'll be interesting to see if the case ends up being the same with the Headless Horseman because we have like 15 to 20 Brewfest mounts like in our guild,
I've
which is
got
nuts.
I have a
Like,
RAM on each character.
yeah,
I
which is
care more about the
insane.
remote, you know?
Yeah, but that kind of mount drop is absolutely insane. If our guild ends Halloween with 20 Horseman's Reigns, that's absurd. So I would hope that they're not a similar drop rate like that. The Horseman's Reigns were always like a very exclusive item, I remember, and I would do that every day, every time that I could.
We don't have any yet, right?
Nah, no, we don't. I don't think anyone's seen one yet, which makes me think that it's
Congrats,
rarer than
Kim.
the Brewfest.
So
I haven't even done it yet.
yeah, I haven't got to do it yet, and I'm bummed about it. I do really, really want to do it. So anybody that wants to take me, just to let everybody know, the first time you do it, you can do it twice in a row. So you're
First
twofer.
time ever?
Yeah, the first time ever you do it during the
Okay.
event, you get to do it twice in a row. Whereas anytime you do it after, you can only do it once per day. The same as the brew fest, like each person can start it. So okay, so me and Kim haven't got to do it. Do you want to talk about it yet, but just kind of give an overview of what you do?
It's really easy. So, it's in Scarlet Monastery. It's in the graveyard, and of course, and I tell this cringy story. I used to have the headless horseman head that drops, and I would use his little poem. You have to click on a mound, and you say a poem to summon him. And I would have a macro that, as I charged with the headless horseman helm on, that I would say it, be like, "Here comes your demise." But he's really easy. I think a lot of people are like 4 DPSing, 1 healing him. You don't need a tank, I don't think, for it. Um, I just like I just DPS it in my like resilience gear, and it's super easy. You have to kill him in 3 phases. You kill him all the way down, his head pops off, and you kill the head to a third. His head comes back on. You kill him again. Head pops off. This time when he comes back, he starts summoning ads. But if you're like doing like 700 to 800 DPS with 3 DPS, then he's just gonna die before the ads get spawned, and you just kill him really quickly. If it's slower, I can see how it's a little bit hectic at the end, but it's a pretty easy fight. It's much, much easier than the Brewfest fight, in my opinion. Brewfest was kind of like, if you brought all alts, you were kind of like, oh, this is annoying. This is a little bit hard. You might have people die now and again. Not really the case in in the Horseman fight.
Okay, cool. All right.
Nice.
Well, moving
I won't feel
on.
bad about bringing on my rogue then.
No, you can still feel bad about that.
Should feel bad for having a rogue. Damn.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but rogues go back to awesome in Wrath. So awesome, and they remain awesome in PvP and go back to awesome in PvE. So did you know rogues get a misdirect in Wrath, which is really nice.
I kind of remember that.
Yep, because
Like cloak or something, right? Wait, no, is that later? Is that
I don't.
Hunters get that later. Hunters get camouflage.
I do remember you get the in combat, which is what I'm pretty sure everybody will use in Wrath. You get the final thing, which is you warp behind somebody and do this like 5-hit thing on them, and you always like you misdirected the fight, or you misdirect with that move, and it's like huge. It's huge aggro for the tank, and you jump up really high DPS like right at the start. It's super cool. I forget what it was called, but yeah, I can't wait to do Rogue and Wrath. It was a lot of fun.
thing from Kill Bill? The
I don't know what you're
Never mind.
talking about. I haven't seen that movie in forever.
It's the thing that makes his heart explode or whatever.
Yeah, the 5 pressure point, like,
Yeah, yeah, that thing.
Oh yeah, where he's like stuck. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, so in other news, they just keep making Classic Fresh, Season of Mastery, whatever you want to call it, more and more interesting. So first off, earlier in the week they found these different strings in through data mining, and they've since explained them. So I'm not gonna explain much of the strings except for I'll explain Diamond Flask. It looks like they changed something about it, which everybody believes to be that you will no longer be able to use Diamond Flask to heal. For anybody who doesn't know what this was, Diamond Flask is a class specific warrior trinket from Sunken Temple that you do a quest for. You get it. On it, it has a use that restores 9 health every 5 seconds and increases your strength by 75. Well, the strength by 75 was already a huge buff, but the 9 health per 5 seconds would allow you to do something weird. You could basically deck your warrior out in all plus healing gear. Then you would pop the trinket, and it would actually compound on whatever healing gear you have. And then you would pop that right before the pull, switch back your gear, keep the flask on, and then that healing would persist throughout, and you would get massive healing during the fight on your warrior. It was also pretty mean for like PvP and stuff like that too. So it looks like they're gonna change that.
I don't even understand why they left that in the game. Every
Same.
other snapshot item got removed, even in Classic. The sword from Baron Rivendare, right? The one that like heals you or something. I forget its proc exactly or what it does,
Mm-hmm.
but you could snapshot like plus spirit gear or something in order to be like invincible. And they were like, hey, this is broken. We're gonna not let it snapshot your gear. I don't know why they didn't do that with Diamond Flask to begin with. It was already a strong cooldown button, right? I mean, we all got Diamond Flask when it came out, and we're like, oh, this is a trinket we wear because of its DPS. The fact that it also made you like an invincible PvPer or an invincible PvEer. I could go Namaradon and solo like anything with low gear just because you just pop your healing gear on. Diamond Flask. Like, ha ha ha. Who needs
It
who needs a
it
healer?
was
I
crazy sick.
hated that. I hated that whole meta. Like, honestly, even if you had like full Ani bags, it was just such a chore to like lug
Oh yeah.
around just for the sake of like maximizing this one trinket. And it's like, dude,
Well, and you were able to
it's not what
get
life is about.
you were able to get like later on, like late phases, you were able to get so much healing gear that just was going to be sharded, or they just go ahead and give it
Mhm.
to you. I mean, like ZG, MC, all these different things, you could get all this gear. And it was just another set of gear I had to tote around on my warrior. But I mean, at the time it was kind of cool, but it definitely probably should have never been in there. But I think that's the only string that isn't mentioned in this last piece in our notes. So I'm just gonna go through one by one, yell out if you want me to stop, because some of it, like, there's no reason to stop. So
Mhm.
they're basically telling us the other stuff that's going on, and some of the same stuff we already know with the Season of Mastery. So test characters can now be leveled to 60. The Adventure Awaits buff now grants an additional experience bonus to dungeon quests and quests flagged as elite. High Elf Watchers have made an appearance in Ironforge Library and Undercity Apocalypthum. I can't say that word. Seeking to chronicle those who bear a soul of iron. Now, this is the hardcore support.
Mm.
So let's talk about that
Yeah,
let's
we
talk
can
about that
dive
real
into
quick.
that.
So basically, you go to an NPC, and you get this buff. And basically, if you've already died on that character, you cannot get the buff. So that, you have to do it before you've ever died. And it basically tells anybody around you that you have never died. If you die, you get Tarnished Soul, and your little soul pops out and stays for from what I'm hearing, 6 to 8 hours. It just stays on the ground. It looks like a little glowing, turquoise ball, and then you get you get a different buff called Tarnished Soul, and that buff makes it so you have 1% less stats, and then you can have it removed, but you can't have the other buff put back on. Now, I thought it would be cool if they just left that in so that they could, you literally have to delete the character to get it off. I thought it would be cool just if you want to keep that character that you decide to do hardcore with, you're always going to have 1% less stats.
I don't think that's.
Well, because
have it go down, have it stack, but have it go down every week, like the respec cost.
I just don't know, because hardcore is supposed to be delete your character, and this is just
how many people are really doing that?
There's quite a few people. Well, not casuals.
Not.
There's quite a few. There's quite a few
there
in the community.
isn't.
Dude,
people deleting their characters when they die.
I could show you 45 small streamers that do it.
There are a small community of content creators making hardcore videos. No player wants to delete their character after they die.
Could be right. You could be right.
If you want to,
let's go back to
delete the character. Yeah, if you want to delete the character, the game should not mandate your death, though. I think the way they're doing it's fine. This is not enough for me. This is like a joke to me. Here, a buff. When, again, RuneScape, a much smaller company, was able to implement an entire actual game mode. They call it a Soul of Iron, but classically, Iron Man means you're a solo player, not like a hardcore player. So I feel like if they want to have a Soul of Iron, you need to implement actual rules, like you can't use the auction house, you can't trade, you can only get, use items that you find yourself. If they want to implement a real mode, they can do that. This is fine. I appreciate this, but it's also as little work as possible. I appreciate them doing something, but other games are already doing a much better job at this. And I would appreciate them to do that. Yeah, just go find an empty server. People are self-imposing these rules. So I hope they do more with this. This is a good start. I'm glad they're doing something, but I also sort of to me, if they didn't do something, I'd be kind of annoyed, right? Because there are people who want to play this game in alternative ways, and I think that they should allow. There should be some in-game rules to allow for that. So I'm glad they're doing this, but it's more like I would have been upset if they didn't do anything in a season for this.
I would be interested to see if there's how there is in StarCraft and Warcraft 3 use map settings modes, or in Overwatch now you have servers with custom rules and stuff like that. It'd be cool to see if there was enough traction to do this, we could have people create their own rule sets, or have a non-official server list that's available to click on in the main panel and stuff, where you just go to a different server that's just set up differently, and no matter what you have to play by those rules if you join the server.
That's gonna happen as soon as Blizzard does something that causes everyone to flock back to private servers. They're gonna be Reek, you can make your own server, just also pay us a subscription while you do.
I feel like that would be a much larger subscription fee if you wanted to do that, and it would be based your fee could go up the more that server was actually used. That would be something they could implement, but you making your own server, and then just think if Asmongold made his own, and all of a sudden they had to support this server that has 10,000 people on it, and they're only charging him $15 a month. I don't think that's gonna fly. But I could see that where they're basically renting out
Yeah.
your ability, like it'd be a different subscription, but that's a cool idea actually.
Yeah.
It's a really
Yeah,
cool
I mean,
idea.
I'd love to play some like modded WoW,
I
right?
want
Like
to just
with the
play.
full approval and like software backing of Blizzard, right? Like I think that'd be pretty nice because like customarily, like they've shown that they can implement things where players do have full control over kind of like their own world, right? And like, I mean, it might be really hard with like an MMO, like WoW. Like, I mean, there are probably standardized rule sets that just go out to every server and that's it. And to like, I don't know what it takes to modify the core of that functionality, but I mean, I've always been a fan of like the use map settings. Like freaking Dota came out in Warcraft 3, right? Or like Warcraft 2,
Three,
whatever,
Warcraft 3.
3. And
That's why they'll never do it
like
again.
that's not a bad point though.
but
Yeah,
but
great.
the point that I was throwing in is if they basically like if some like they would rent out, you would pay, but then if you're getting enough people to play on it, they would revenue share. It would be like a give and take thing where they could actually make money, and the person or persons doing the server could actually make money back. That's an
It's like a
interesting thought.
different type of content creation, right? Like you're
Well,
literally
it's like
creating
Minecraft,
content
right?
for people to play, not necessarily like watch, but
People
they're still
became
your ideas and stuff.
people became millionaires off of Minecraft servers. Just straight up making their own games, and you just like pay to play.
Yeah, that's actually a
So,
huge topic, but we don't have we do have a
too
very
huge of a
actual.
topic.
Yeah, we have an actual schedule today, so I'm gonna move on to the next part. We have to make it to raid. So, they took out world buffs with the raids. They were already planning on doing it. It's just now in the actual beta. They got rid of the debuff limit on enemy units. Uh, now they significantly changed. They significantly lessened the experience that is now awarded to players who kill creatures while in a group with one or more players at much higher level slain. We'll get back to that once we get to the rest of. Actually, just do this in a weird order. All right, we'll get back to that in a second. Looking for group tool is now present in the Burning Crusade Classic. It's the same one we have. It's not like the Q LFG where you queue for. It's the one that's in TBC right now. All right, so here's the next part of how they're stopping mage boosting. So like I said before, if you're in a group with one or more players at a much higher level, I don't know what much means, but much higher level is the wording that they use, then you get less experience. In Stratholme, all undead creatures will now gain immunity to snares after 30 seconds of entering combat, and then gain immunity to roots after an additional 30 seconds. Maraudon, many creatures will gain an immunity to snares 30 seconds after entering combat, and it's the same. Gain immunity to roots after that. Maraudon, 30 seconds after gaining immunity to root effects, enemies gain 50% increased movement speed. Maraudon and Stratholme, any type of crowd control except snares or roots will reset the snare immunity and root immunity and speed buff. So if you're doing some sort of sap or something like that, or fear, it'll reset your actual root and snares. Zul'Farrak, zombie trolls now drop less lucrative items. Most of the loot previously dropped by zombie trolls has been redistributed to other enemies in the dungeon. So yeah, they're
Yes.
kicking mage boosted ass right there. That's
Yeah,
nuts.
damn. I
Thoughts?
mean, like, what they got to come in with like sappers now or something, cut into their profit line.
I don't
Like, wait,
think
Uh,
they're
is there
gonna.
any
I
way
mean,
to do it at all?
there's no way to do
Doesn't
the big
seem
pull.
like it.
At least, no
Yeah.
way that we could theorize. There might be people that are crazy and know
I mean,
reset
clearly their
points.
intent is to kill that. So if this doesn't, something else will. Um, Interestingly, I find it interesting that they are significantly reducing experience, but then also making these Stratholme Mardon Zul'Farrak changes, which to me says they don't want people to boost themselves either. I don't know if you guys know, but an appropriately leveled mage can actually solo Mardon and level themselves so they don't have to be like 60 and full of gear anymore. So I have a feeling that they're like, on one hand, we don't want a high level mage boosting you. On the other hand, you also can't boost yourself.
This
like,
this
like
is
split
what
swinging
money
I've
this.
fight.
this is
Yeah.
what I've brought up many times in these conversations about stopping boosting. I've pointed out another big problem is economy with just the amount of gold mages can make by doing AoE farms. So,
Totally.
yeah. And
Especially if they're disenchanters, they just
did you guys
hole up.
I
did you
mean,
see
it's
anything they did about paladins, or do we really not have to worry about paladins until the TBC talents come out? I think that might be the case.
I think
um
that I would say that's the case because like there weren't that many palliating runs. Well, I guess that there weren't really
it's
any
Stratholme is the
spec
only thing
people
that I'm not
anyway.
sure they could run. If they can run Stratholme, I don't remember if they could do it before
I don't
the
think
pre-patch
I
or not.
I think it's the talent changes that actually
Yeah.
changed it to where they actually could do enough damage to make it work.
Because they can't really do Mardon, and they can do something like Scarlet Monastery really well, but this actually doesn't target Scarlet Monastery at all, or like any of the low dungeons. So like there will be a cap. You will be able to like I don't know, mage. You can't really self mage boost in like Cathedral. It's not the same as like Maradon or Zul'Farrak, where you're just gonna get like insano XP solo in there as a mage. But clearly, like you will still be able to make some money. It's just the drops in Cathedral if you're a level 60 mage. So they're not getting rid of like your only ways to make money as a mage. It's just this is a this is big. This is like
Yeah.
they want to kill the leveling. And if this doesn't, there's almost like no point in talking about like the specifics of like, will this kill it? I have a feeling they'll just change it. As soon as someone can do it, if someone on the beta is able to do it, I think they'll just change it. They clearly want it dead. This is like a hammer. This is a
Yeah.
nail
I mean,
straight to the heart.
they're really putting a lot of work into it, and you can complain as much as you want, but just try and give them feedback because it looks like they have teams. I believe this is a lot Holly Longsdale. I believe this is a lot her because she's the one that made EverQuest Classic. I don't know what they call it, but she's the one that made that work. And they brought her in after they saw how good Classic did and how nobody had any idea what to do. And so, I mean, this does look good for the future. If you're looking for a reborn game and a reinventing of Classic WoW, if you're looking for classic like vanilla, like, you might be a little upset, but this is pretty interesting and neat for the future of what this game could become.
Yeah, they clearly are open to doing all the things that people want. It's just can they and will they find a mix that ends up being like an incredible game? At least they're open to all of these things. Like I was, I'm negative about the Master of, the Soul of Irons or whatever. But the fact that they're doing anything, at least they're doing that, and it's exciting that they, depending on what the community wants, they probably will rapidly change a lot of these things, which I think is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I think it's pretty neat going forward. If you're upset about not having vanilla, I am sorry. I do feel for you. But we did have 2 years of that, and they don't want to make servers for. We're gonna have a little discussion, in a later episode with an email we got, but they're not really looking to recreate that exact replica. But
I think I said it last week. Like, if they just keep everything the same and don't do this, every season or every refresh will be smaller and smaller if they don't do any changes. What they want to do is make the game grow, and you need to change some things to make things grow bigger and bigger. So no matter how you look at it, like if they just keep releasing it over and over the same way, like the player base will shrink, and they don't want that. So of course they're gonna make changes, and we need to if we want to play the game and keep playing the game, we're gonna have to make some compromises. I'm sure if we want mage boosting gone, we might have to be okay with like extra quest XP.
All right, guys, let's move into discussion. So this week in discussion, we have KimJongOOM here to talk about the guild banks, and we have talked to you about it on multiple episodes so far, but we are getting hooked up with the guild bank, and we brought the man, the myth, the legend on to tell us why. So Kim, let's start from the beginning. What brought this idea on?
Well, I guess in past history, I suppose, I mentioned that back when I played retail, when it was like progressing outward into different expansions, I did PvP only, and that's not necessarily true, because back then I also did a lot of auction housing, and at one point it was all I did, and that's basically the only reason why I paid my subscription, because I ended up getting like bored of PvP. Some of my PvP friends stopped playing, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna like flip shit and see what I could do until I get bored of it or whatever. And basically, yeah. So I really found that it was a ton of fun to just like I like to call it craft parsing, basically. And
I like
I try to
that.
do something like this in Classic, where just look at the auction house and like just make whatever's profitable. And that meta has essentially shifted with, I mean, at least for me, because alchemist, three alchemists, all the way, all the time, like no question about it. I've always had an alchemist for the sole convenience of it. And when they came out with procs and the different specialties, I was like, oh, yep. This is where I can basically play for free, so to speak, right? And I found that with enough volume, if I crafted things that were solely profitable or break even, with the products, I could basically have free raid consumes, right? Now, for a lot of people, that might be. I'm gonna say like you can't be super optimistic about it. You do need like startup capital, right? Because you need to be able to actually crank out the production value in order to make it worth it for you to keep those procs, right? Because like let's say you have like 2,000 gold and you make all this stuff and you're using all your profit, right? Like you're not really going anywhere with that. So you need to you need to make it so that even more than your production and procs, you're able to kind of sell off half and whatnot. And when TBC came out, like my immediate thing was like, okay, I'm getting a potions master and I'm getting a flask master. And if time permits and I get bored enough, I'll finish leveling my rogue and get transmute master. And basically that's the whole reason why I kind of have what I have right now, is because I was able to capitalize on the really really early startup. Yeah, so in phase one, well, actually going into TBC, I was talking to Harscare, and I was like, hey, like if there is a G bank that's coming out in TBC, I want to be involved in some way, because like I think in Nax or so, like I was bringing supplies, everything. Like I had, like I basically call it the Kim store, right? Like in the middle of raid, you need nature pot or nature resist pots. Like I got you covered. Like here's what the craft cost is. Like since you're asking me in raid, I'm gonna charge like auction house difference 5%, cut, in order to make it worth my while to actually bring this to raid. And that whole thing was like it was cool, and it took a lot of preparation, But it wasn't really the ideal way to go about doing things, right? Because like you're really limited by bag space. Like your biggest commodity in that situation is bag space, and the ability to transfer things or like easily get your goods around from place to place. And in TBC that all changed because of the fact that not just because of GBank, but more so because mail is instant, right? So you can easily
Yeah,
go
it's huge.
from like buying stuff out on the auction house to immediate production, and then you go take a shower or whatever because you're all sweaty WoW players, right?
Well, and
Um,
also just for the average, like the average player, you no longer have to go to or to go to the auction house ever. You just park a guy there,
exactly.
and he just sends you what you need, and then you send everything to that guy to sell. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, currently I'm rocking 4 bank alts. One of them is dedicated to managing Vargflocken. That'd be my mage because you can blink to the mailbox and all that, and it's pretty awesome. Anyway, so in phase 1, there's no GBank, and I was like, all right, like I guess I'll hook people up with crafts and stuff like that. Basically, if GBank does plan on coming out, I want this to be my accumulation phase. I want it to be the point where like once it opens, we just hit the ground running, right? Um, which is like I think you both remember in the very beginning, I was really, really pushing to get the extra capital in order to open the slots, right? And that's why, because I had basically sitting on my various characters like 4 tabs worth of stuff just ready to drop, and like valuable stuff too, like large brills, like gems, like whatever, right? Um, and so when it dropped, I think Ledger was saying maybe it was like 16 to 17k worth of like materials. That was the initial startup cost to just drop in stuff. Like that's not counting buying the tabs and stuff like that. So yeah, towards the end of phase 1, I was like, all right, I'm a little cash poor right now, but it's going to be totally worth it just to get this project up and running, because like it's something that I've wanted to do since Classic, really, and I just like didn't have the tools for it. And now that I have the tools, like you guys know, like it's just flowing, right?
Well,
Like,
hold on. Don't get too ahead of the
okay,
let's like you kind of went over the planning, but was there more planning than just talking to Harskar, or was Harskar just like he's the GM? Was he just like you just do whatever, bro? Or was there?
yeah, the Harsker was like, I mean, he was just basically like, I'll leave it up to you. If you need anything from me, just ask. And like, Harsker's been absolutely great with just like a lot of like the management stuff too. Like if there's something that I need, or like if there's something I'm pushing for to happen, then like he'll try his best to like mention it and like see if people are willing to help out and stuff like that. Um, I also requested Mira to be co-treasurer with me because I mean he's just a super cool guy. I like him, and I mean that's not the reason why, but like he also fills in our profession gaps perfectly, as well as the fact that like he's willing to do stuff. Like he just offers like, hey, like I'm I have this and this. Like, do you need me to craft anything for GBank? I'm like, you know what? Like that's the type of person that we need. Like in the backlines with me, like managing stuff and like looking at things and being like, oh, we could use this, and let's toss some of that in here. Like, Kim, do you have materials for this and this? Like, or like, can you look at the auction house over time and see if you could pick up these materials in order for us to like make these things and stuff like that.
Okay, well, so not to jump too far, because like there's actually like a good handful of people that craft stuff for the bank, but I want to get to that.
True,
I
very true.
I want to try and get this in time in timeline. So the last question I have
Okay.
for you about the beginning, and without the punchline, did you have any doubts about this actually working or being the guild bank as a whole actually working or being beneficial? What were your doubts without telling me if you were right or wrong?
I mean, I don't know. I don't really worry about these things too much. I guess. I I have my epic mounts. I have my recipes. I have basically whatever. I mean, I think that even if the whole venture did not end up the way that it is now, I'd still be relatively happy and it
So
didn't
base
work out. All right, everyone's
I
just
mean,
got to do what everyone does normally,
yeah,
right? Like it's
worst
not
case is like for
life returns
many
to
weeks
normal.
of progression. Yeah, for many weeks of progression, you helped, and then the guild bank ran out
Mhm.
of money, which you basically like that's better than the guild bank starting with no money.
Right.
So
And
failure is still better than not.
yeah, that like
gotcha.
it brings up a really really good point actually. Like I really wanted this to succeed during progression. Right. That's a main point of this because like once everything's on farm, like life is easy street as far as consumes go, right? Like you stop using Flask and you start using like elixirs and like that's way cheaper to fund and like um just general consumes are it's a lot easier as your times get cut down and things like that. Um so the main reason why I hoarded everything and just try to like go full hog from the beginning is because of progression. Like I wanted us to be in this situation where like, okay, we've trimmed down our team to like 25 people and we have the ability to go like do some really, really good stuff, but I don't want people to be limited by gold. Like if someone like didn't have a mana pot and that could have saved the raid from wiping, like that's on all of us. Like we need to make sure that everyone has their like universal healthcare type of deal, right?
Yep.
We're only as
Basically,
strong as our weakest link.
yeah, it's basically filling in the gaps of I didn't use it because it's so expensive. It's like,
Filling in the
bitch,
gaps
please.
between the haves and the have-nots. So basically, what I got from this is you were confident in your ability to work the market. You were also not stressed by the guild putting undue pressures on you, and you were hoarding stuff to increase your chances of making this work. So
Yeah.
that brings me to the next. Now let's start. What did you do day one with your startup funds, and like how did you start
You mean
getting the
phase one
bank
or
going? No, because we talked about phase one, your ideas and your hoarding and
Mhm.
all that. Phase two, when it came out, day one, you got the bank. What did you start doing? And like, tell us about the first maybe week of what was done to
Mm.
help make this start to work. And then we're going to get on to how it's worked, which is the juicy part of it.
So, Bob, actually, you're a really big part of why it's kind of successful in the first place, because you bought the Nether, right? In the beginning, like you bought the Nethers, and
Well, I mean, but don't I mean
people.
don't discount all the other people that donated big
Oh
chunks of
yeah,
gold too.
for sure. But like the amount that you tossed in was like exactly enough to get us over that hump in the exact amount of time that we needed. Like without that 2,500 from the Nethers, um, we couldn't have picked up that extra tab and like really get the flow things. I mean, like okay, maybe we would have been delayed by a week or two, but still, that's not how how I would have liked things to go. Like I think I like kind of planned beforehand what I wanted each tab to do, and like everything has its right spot. Like, and I went through and I tried to make sure that each tab had like a certain purpose or a profession or something tied to it. Um, so I think the newest tab or the tab that you picked up or that we were able to pick up because of you, Bob, was the Destro Pot and Haste Pot and Mana Injectors tab, which I think is probably a favorite amongst our guildies, um, for obvious reasons. Uh, but yeah, like basically, I wanted to start just rolling this out as soon as possible. And the biggest concern for me, if anything, was getting other people to toss in gold and like be like, hey, this is a worthwhile thing. Like, it doesn't, if you're approaching guildies and soliciting them for gold, like it's like, oh, I don't really know. Well, like a lot of people don't even know me, right? Like we got a lot of new people and they're like, oh, who's this Kim guy? Like, why is he trying to like scam me out of my gold, right? I'm just like, oh, well, like, oh, like trust me, it'll be fine. Um, so that was actually my biggest fear, was like getting people to actively like throw, like whatever pocket change they have, if any, like into it, and I'm not
Let
really.
me interject too, if I can. This is
Hmm.
also the people who do know Kim and were around in classic vanilla also know about our overall mismanagement of the guild bank, not Kim
Oh.
related. But the guild bank was like an overall negative experience in vanilla. So like getting people to be like, okay, I'm gonna give to this, but like I didn't see enough out of this in
Right.
vanilla. What does giving into it mean? So that
I mean,
that
I
was
think
another hurdle.
that's a really, really big thing too. Yeah. That was kind of like, I don't know. I think back in classic, I had a similar thought, where I was like, man, like if I had access to, the like funds and like materials and shards and whatever, like I'd just be flipping that regularly, right? And like a good example is like yesterday, uh scroll of agi, which we regularly use, went from like 7 gold or something like that to like 13. And that's something that I like stocked up on because one, we could use it, and two, volatility exists, right? um and like seeing those opportunities for me and not being able to take him was really one of the bigger issues, right? It's like, hey, like we can make so much more, or like we can play this much more like smarter if we maneuvered our funds in certain ways, or like like if we had an overall strategy that enabled us to preserve like the storage that we have, as well as like being able to flip things in order to get the funds that we need to buy stuff that we can't necessarily just produce or farm on our own, right?
Now, I want to dive into that more because that's something that I don't think a lot of people think about. And that's something that's very unique with ours. It does take a lot of work. So I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but I want you to talk about actually flipping, like taking things out that are up in price, making gold off of that, like you're buying things that are at a low price, putting them in the bank. Like, talk about that, because that I think is the juice of how you've been able. Because you showed me your ledger for the last month, and what did you make profit on doing all these things? What was it, like 75,000 gold or something like that?
I mean, it's not necessarily even about the profit, though. I would say it's more about growing the ledger, so to speak. Like
Okay, well, yeah, go ahead and
contrary
talk
to
about that.
contrary to what people might think, I don't really care that much about gold. I care about having stuff that we can use, right? And for me, that's really the biggest thing, and that's really the biggest reason why I do this, is because like I don't like ever feeling like I'm in a situation where I can't just freely pop a consume just because like they're running low or something like that, right? And I feel like for our guild to have a good like community experience, like I would like to just eliminate that feeling altogether, right? Um, I forgot where I was going with this, but
Well, you
Well, we're
have for
talking about.
me, while you think about it, you have for me, like for me, if I had to buy all my own consumes, I would not be mighty rage potting on trash sometimes. But for
mhm,
me, like if I go into a pull when I don't have misdirect and maybe I'll get parried on my first hit and it's, maybe the technician pack's going to lurker. I'm like, okay, a lock's gonna die, but I can save them by hitting this mighty rage pot right now.
right.
Whereas before I'd be like, I'll just let the lock die. like
Well,
like
and
whatever. But we're able to save time as a guild by me hitting that mighty rage spot.
Totally.
and
Oh,
and
totally.
and for me, like as a DPS, like I'm able to blow destro pots on trash, and you know me,
Yeah.
Oh my
like
god.
I think trash is trash, and so for me to spend gold on a trash pull, is just like but I'm going to do it because the guild bank provides it, and it is
Mhm.
making it faster. And so it's like a give and take there, and so
Right.
that's definitely cool. But I was more wanting to just, because we're going to talk about everything it has given us, here. But I just want to know about, like, give me some more examples of different flips that you've done.
Um,
Because
I don't know if I should say this out loud, but
you'll reset the market and stuff like that.
yeah, um, it really depends. So I guess to go to the root of it, I have things set up in TSM based on groupings, and what this means is that I'll make it so that I can like search the entire list of things that I might want and things that precede them, as in like what materials you need to make them.
And
And
just
I'll just look
let
at
everybody
them.
know, TSM is Trade Skill Master add-on.
Yes, very very useful. It does have its little kinks, but overall it is a much greater pro than con. Um, and okay, so basically I'll pull up I'll select the list, like let's say jewel crafting, right? And I'll basically have all the cuts that I have on that list, as well as the uncut gems, and I'll just basically go through, search that group, and then just sort by minimum buyout. And if I see that the uncut is below, um, the cut, then I'll just buy the uncut. But if I see that the cut is like around or lower than the uncut, then I'll just buy it out
And
and reset it so that people that actually craft that thing will actually make money on it, right? Like, because it sucks to like make a craft that doesn't net you anything, right? And for me, that was really the frustration. It's like, oh, I have these things I want to make, but the price is like too low for me to post. What's the solution? Just make it so that the price isn't that anymore, right? Um, so I'll do this often with gems, sometimes flasks. Flasks is it's a really heavy investment. But because of procs, it makes it worth it, even just to make that 10%. So like sometimes I'll just have like 4,000 or something sunk into some flasks.
well, here,
Um,
real quick, also, I'm trying to make this for everybody. Anybody who isn't a potion person or an alchemist, you can choose a specific thing, and those crafts have a chance to proc more than one when you create one. And so that's what he's talking about when he when he says procs. Sorry, I just wanted to.
And this is in the game World of Warcraft, the classic version.
Hey,
The
man,
Burning.
you would be
I'm
surprised
just
how
joking.
how
yeah,
many
I'm
you'd be
people.
joking.
surprised. You'd be surprised. I've talked to
I'm
some people
joking.
I just don't know.
No, that's absolutely the case. Bob's in the right. Don't get me.
But like honestly, I think alchemy is absolutely massive for GBank like hierarchy to have. Um just because you go through so much of it, like it's basically what everybody wants for raids. It's like the highest gold sync, right? Flasks every week is like, if you're not like actively trying to make gold, it'll basically wear on you, and you'll be broke at some point if you're not like trying to go for it. And if you don't have professions that like actually are lucrative, like if you're going at like something in order to help out your raid or something like that, like that shouldn't be an impedance on your raid ability, right? Like ironically, right? um yeah, I mean, like the procs are just absolutely massive, because what I tend to do is I'll make a batch of like, let's say like, if the herb market allows, I'll allow, or I'll basically go for like, I'll craft like 400 500 Destro pots at a time, you know put half of them, well, it does depend on the profitability of the actual craft itself. If it's break even, then I'll send half to the GBank. Or currently, actually, we're like full, so I could just make all profit off that. But like, um, basically, like splitting up your procs is the best way to keep up with the demand, right? And I mean, I'm also only able to really do this because I just leave my computer on crafting in the background while I'm like watching Squid Game or something. Yeah,
Yep.
like it's a really, if you have the capital for it and if you can do fast math in your head. I mean, you don't even have to like you know what add-on I use most in WoW? It's not TSM, it's calculator. Right? Like I pull out Windows calculator and I'm just sitting there, or Excel. Like I have this massive Excel spreadsheet that covers like multiple professions, and I just use that as a reference. This time, this and this. But like going back to that, like depending on the material cost, that looking at material cost is really the best way to determine whether or not something is ripe for the flippening. Um, I think there's several examples of this. The scrolls, for one, scrolls, things that aren't necessarily craftable, in the craftable realm, right?
Just kind of depends on how many people are playing at that time on the server and how much drops are happening and how many people are
Yeah,
sticking it on the auction house rather than vendoring, yada yada yada.
yeah, and a lot of it too is there are certain strategies that you want to employ if you're kind of like waiting to buy out certain things. Like sometimes you'll want to wait till there's like almost nobody posting that one item, and that happens sometimes just because it's not profitable to post anymore, right? Like if you look at a price and you see it dropping, you're like, okay, at some point in time, if everyone keeps posting what they have, it's just going to keep dropping. People are going to stop making it, the supply is going to go down, and that's when you basically try to buy out like stuff that are higher in higher in cost. um Bob, I think your boots of blasting is a prime example for that. We were discussing this about how Spellcloth had shot down to like 30 gold, and you're like, man, I don't even want to make it anymore. I'm like, you know what, let me change that for you, right? And like I went and bought all the Spellcloth and Shadowcloth on the market. It was like 30 for Spellcloth and like just under 40 for Shadow. And I was like, you know what, like someone's gonna undercut this, blah blah blah. I'll set it to 65. It's like a fair. I mean, I wouldn't say fair, but it's like I don't expect to sell things at that point, right? I expect to set a baseline for everyone else to act upon, which then I could go in and do, my normal like auctioning routine off of.
Well,
Right?
and now as of today, the baseline for Spellcloth, because I went and crafted today on my other geotailers, it's now at 38 instead of 30.
Yeah. I mean, like that might not even seem like that much to you, but like
It's pretty
that's
big across the board, across everybody,
yeah,
trying
that's
to
like a
make Spellcloth.
24% difference or something, right?
It
And
was at a break even. Now it's at a 10 gold profit for someone who
right,
just makes one.
yeah. Which is really like the whole point of this is like if you factor in procs and like specialties and stuff like that, like you have to actually bake that in as well. Like so the math on it gets a little more complicated, but not drastically, right? Because you have a baseline proc rate of like if you deal with masses, you know what your proc rate is generally going to be. You know, like Casmo lucked out yesterday. He sent me like, oh, I want 10 haste pots, and he got back 16. 60% is ridiculous.
It's
Like
not bad. It's not
that's
bad.
not going to happen to you. I'm sorry. Like you can wish for it all you want, but you'll be disappointed. Um, but basically, like I know my proc rates. I think potion is generally like 15 to 20. Elixirs can be up to 25 if you're lucky enough. Flasks, oh, don't even get me started on flasks. Like flasks have been kind of rough recently, as far as proc rates go. I honestly think there's some kind of like a time gated server cap on the max amount of procs, but that's not something I really want to get into right now, as it's just a loose
Well,
harebrained theory.
why don't you tell us about you? Because you said you were potions across all your characters. So tell us
Alchemy.
about using guildies to craft things for you. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. Just tell us how you work that.
So before the G Bank came out, the number one thing that I would use guildies for is the breaking up primals, as you guys know. Yip knows really well what I'm talking about. I think Skeet's in chat. He knows what I'm talking about. And basically, I was like, break up these primals for me. I'll give you the iron shields that you want so desperately.
That we need.
Actually, explain breaking primals to me. I don't know what that means.
So like you have to be a miner, is that right?
A miner can break a primal earth or a primal fire into modes.
I did
So
have
there's actually
that
a
when I was
lot of the
miner.
times there's profit because the primal earth will be selling for less than 10 motes. So iron shields take motes to craft. So you could just go buy the motes, but it's cheaper if you go buy the primals and break them down.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like if you're dealing with bulk, like I mean, sometimes I'll try to fill like an order to make. Well, I would end up needing like 1,200 motes, and they're in stacks of 10, and it it sucks to deal with, but like, hey, I only have to send, what, 6 stacks or something like that, right? To get like 1,200 motes. It's like, hey, if I could get Yip to do this for me, then I could just have it sitting in my mail, and I could just like drag it out as I need it. That just makes life way easier for me, and Yip's getting paid, and I'm not losing gold by paying Yip out of my procs because I'm just making so many that like he'll have more than he needs like within a couple weeks of raid. And then I'll just toss all those guys into one bank or another and deal with that in the future. But yeah, basically here, let me pull up some numbers just to see.
Stats are coming out, and everything's still functioning the same for me. I just get to pull my iron shields from the bank now.
Yeah, honestly, having like officers that are involved with like dealing with GBank stuff, it has really helped out a lot as well. Like Stoof has been awesome.
Talking about Stoofy?
Yeah, like I opened the GBank one day, and I'm like everything's so pretty. It's all organized. Like what? Like I was just like, oh man, that's awesome.
It's interesting too. A lot of my experience playing retail, at least, I was never in a guild where I would feel comfortable with so many people having access to the G Bank. But it's sort of, maybe it's just because we're all adults now. Maybe that's part of it. That
Could
like
be.
I don't think that these people are just gonna like rip us off immediately. Like back in the day, if you had like 6 or 7 people who had full access to the G Bank, that G Bank is gonna be empty one morning, like no matter what.
Well, I'll also say like, I don't think it would be untrue to say that the majority of the stuff in there is basically like something that I've provided.
Yeah,
right?
yours.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a direct
Gold's not really mine
strike
anymore,
against
but
you.
yeah, like, and I'll say that like like a lot of people having access doesn't really bother me, because if GBank just got cleared out, I mean, I just wouldn't do it anymore, but I'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah, like you've already
I have
accepted
like
the
a different bank, or I have a different like banking guild that's made specifically for my banks, and it's called the United Rations. Because I have all my dudes are like puns on like world leaders and stuff. I was working on Shamala Harris yesterday. Anyway, yeah, like for me, it's just like, oh, if someone decides to just like nuke the G Bank and just take everything, then I'm just like, you know what, you just ruined it for everyone then. Like, but hey, you know what? Like that's just something I don't have to do then. Like whatever, it's no hair off my back.
Well,
So
I think
it's more on you guys. Like the officers have to make sure that like you're not losing that shit, right? Like,
well, I mean, I think
but
if that were to happen, I think Blizzard would actually step in with that type
they
of.
would totally refund.
Yeah, I mean, because there's definitely over 100,000 gold worth of stuff there, right? I'm trying
What?
to
I say
think.
100,000.
no
50 maybe.
Maybe 50 with a recent surge in
I don't think
large
they
drills and
refund.
enchanting mats.
Historically,
I think it would.
No,
I think it would.
If
If
I've
you're
only
hacked,
known
they would, but
I've only known them to refund if someone without intentional access to the G Bank ends up with access to the G Bank.
Mm.
If you set an officer to have full access to the G Bank and they wipe you out, I think they just say like you gave them full access to the
Yeah, it's
G
like
Bank.
that's on
But
you
if you
for
get like
trusting that
hacked,
person.
yeah. Where I had this issue in retail, if you don't log in after a certain amount of time, someone can take your guild over if they're 2 ranks below you. So I had someone steal my guild once, and I had to get
Oh,
my
that's weird.
stuff back. Yeah.
Dang, it's super dark in here.
I had my friend ask for the G Bank after I quit. They were like, just sent me a text. It was like, hey, can I have the G Bank? Because there's like a lot of gold there. I was like, all right, I'll log in real quick and give it to you.
I think I could turn on the light real quick.
Sounds good. I can tell my sad story about when I logged in to battle for Azeroth. I was like, time to come back. Time to come back to WoW. One of the things I really like in that game is making gold. I log in, I'm all ready to go. I know I've got like 3 mil in the bank of money and stuff, and my G bank is wiped out by my ex-girlfriend who was still an officer in my
Oh,
guild.
wow.
Yep.
The
Yep. And you
punchline's
know
the
what's
best
funny?
part.
That's like
I didn't
alimony right
realize
there.
I didn't realize because we made matching names where they were a paladin named Yippity Day, and I thought it was me. I thought it was my character, but it wasn't.
Oh,
And then the G bank
wow.
was cleared out.
All right, well, let's get into kind of the end here, and let's talk about what the G Bank has actually been able to provide. And I don't know how to really go through it. Like we could start on like what it started at and what we're at now, if you want to do that.
Um, what do you mean?
Well, I
Just as
mean,
far as like what we have?
no, I mean, what's the G Bank been able to provide for each
Oh,
person in the raid?
so basically, I'll set up a. I basically taken over the professions and trading channel in our Discord, and every
Which
week
you
before a
already
raid.
had.
I know that's true. That's true. Yeah. So it's like I'm just formally coming to power.
Yep, exactly.
But basically, uh, sorry. What was I saying?
What you're giving people. So you're setting up tabs where
Right.
people can access, right? You have like a withdrawal tab for everybody on raid night.
And also
Yeah,
order sheets too.
yeah. So basically, I have order sheets, and I basically say like, "Oh, here is the elixir sheet. Please, like, click with one battle elixir or something." And you know, whoever emotes A, B, C, or D will, you know, get that. If it's a flask or elixir or something like that, then they'll get that either mailed to them or traded to them. Um, Yip has taken over Flask of Fortification. Stoof deals with Distilled Wisdoms. Hearthscare deals with Relentless Assault. And I deal with Blinding Light and Pure Death. And it speeds up like distribution within raid. I ended up having a problem, an anti-spamming problem. So kudos to Blizzard for doing that. Actually, I was kind of like frustrated at the time, but I could totally see it being a good thing. Where I ran into like a mailing limit, where I tried to mail in the first week. I tried to mail everyone exactly what they had requested, and that was actually a lot of work, especially for people like Fabulous who have a special little like circle on top of their A in their name, and I
Oh
have to like
no.
But
yeah.
you do know for those you could always use TSM and you could go to
Yeah,
guild and then just
yeah, of
choose it from a
course.
drop. Okay.
But I
Who
basically know like
cares?
all our guildies names like spelling just like off the top of my head. So to like pull down a list and do that manually is just like so painful to me. Um, but yeah, so originally it was a like a mail order subscription type of deal, and now basically I basically asked Harscale like, hey, if you don't mind, actually, like it would make it way easier just to have the consumes tab number 4, just be open on raid days to like withdraw 2 things or 1 thing or whatever, um, and tab 4 basically contains Mighty Rage. I should really take Iron Shields out of there because only really like yeah. It has like Mighty Rage, Mana Pot Injectors because those are way better for management of space. Haste Pots, Destro Pots, you name it. And then I'll distribute Flask during raid.
And do you do Flask during raid still just because to put one flask in each slot would be an extreme waste of space in the G Bank?
Yes. That's actually like one of the bigger reasons why. Also, it's like a little bit of tighter control. Like if someone no shows or like has like, hey, it's like suddenly, hey, I can't make it. But they already took a flask. So it's like, well, I mean, most of the time I'm just like okay with like them taking a flask for like the next week or whatever. But if we're low, I don't want that to happen, right? Like I want to prioritize people that are, come in and showing up and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, flasks are probably one of the easier things actually. They just take a lot of gold, but like time wise, not too bad because you spend a lot of gold for like 40 crafts or something like that, opposed to like hundreds in order to offset the elixirs and stuff like that. Because like elixirs, I generally want to send people stacks of 10. If they're really easy, 20 maybe, just so they have them for a while.
Well, that's something to point out. For
The time component is really big.
the last few weeks, everybody has had a free flask, and flasks are probably something you can check Warcraft logs and make sure they used at least one. I don't know about everybody, but I personally use the one that I'm given and then use a second one every raid night. But I'm sure some people probably switch to elixirs after that, which is fine. But like
You can do the opposite too. So like if we're starting on farm stuff like in Tempest Keep, it's starting with elixirs if you think you're gonna live for like an hour is nice. So you're not like
I
wasting
would
an
say that's
hour
a
of
way to
fucking
go.
flax. Yeah.
If you're a little more strapped and like that's probably the way to go for farm stuff. And that's like also something I was mentioning earlier is like it'll become a lot easier to start using elixirs more prolifically rather than flasks as stuff becomes more on farm. Yeah, but generally everyone gets one flask. I think for the past, was it 7 or 8 raids or something like that. It's basically we've had 18 people ish requesting flasks. That's actually a really good turnout. Because we want to make sure everyone's like consuming up the butt. Or I mean that came out really weird.
I mean, there's no excuse now
Yeah,
either,
there's no
right?
excuse.
Like,
There's
there's
like I,
no.
I want to make
Well-
it so that there is no excuse to not be doing your best.
And it's
And-
huge because
Yeah.
I'm pretty okay. I know a lot of people. I watch a lot of content, and I haven't heard of any other guild providing flasks for people along with food, weapon oils, elixirs. Like this, I mean,
Gems, enchanting mats.
well, yeah, we're gonna get to that next. So that's just the consumes part. On top of that, Kim has turned. Okay, so Kim started with, "Hey, we're gonna be able to enchant new gear, so you could use it that night when it drops," and that's happened now. There hasn't even been one of the weird ones. Like I almost my jaw dropped to the ground when the bis bracers dropped for our boomkin on Alar last week, and he goes, "Do you have the mats for 15 spell power to bracers?" And I thought to myself, that's way too much to ask from the guild bank because it's like hundreds of gold enchant. And Kim goes, "Yeah, we've got those on us," and they enchanted it right at the start of. That's the first boss we killed. That's the start of raid, so we got to use it for the rest of the farm, and it was just my jaw dropped.
I'll be honest, the
And gems, too.
goodwill that Kim has created with the guild bank is actually insane. From going in classic or vanilla where it's just like, we'll hand out whatever, you can maybe get half off of an idol or something. And now it's just like it feels like everything is flowing. I feel like in
Mhm.
2 weeks, Kim's gonna be
It
like,
feels really
I,
good.
I stole a bunch of money from like a loan shark, and that's where all this was being funded from. Because it just feels like I think to a normal person in the guild who's just not paying attention, they're just getting a bunch of free stuff that it's just like actually incredible the turnaround. And we're not going insanely broke. Like in my head, I was like, we're just gonna lose. It's just gonna be like for us in Nax, which is where my experience comes from. We had a 15,000 gold guild bank going into Nax. Not only did we drain that to zero, officers had to personally put money in to keep like affording flasks for everybody. So like our
And not
mentality was like
everybody.
go to broke.
Not no
Oh
no,
no,
just
sorry.
tanks.
Just flasks of Titans. Just Titan flasks. I mean that's really what most people when normal humans were doing for flasks next. Um but yeah, like it was like a go to broke mentality. Like we need to do the progression and we're going to broke for it. And we went through so much gold that,
Mhm.
had Kim been in place, had a guild bank been in place then, everything could have been, I feel like, entirely different. And I feel like it's happening now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's starting to feel really like I don't know. Like I feel like we've covered the majority of the holes in our systems, right? Like basically almost any eventuality we can account for, um, which I think is really big. It has been honestly somewhat of a learning curve as well. Just understanding like how often people go through certain consumes, and that more so like pertains to a little more on the food side, a little more on the like oils and
Mana
stone side.
pots. Mana pots are the ones you
Mana
were like,
pots,
wow.
yeah, mana pots. For reference, just off of things that I've sold, not crafted or like given to guildies or anything, I've sold 23,000 mana pots since TBC has come out.
It's quite a
Um,
few.
Well, and then
yeah.
you saw with logs like how many the raid used the other
Oh yeah,
night on
that's the
farm
other thing.
content.
Yeah, yeah, that's the other thing too. Is the reason why I'm able to kind of route things correctly is because Mira actually showed me Ironforge.pro's report analyzer, and it basically shows you all the cooldowns and consumes that they end up using. So I can really quickly tally up in my little Excel sheet of like how many potions people are going through, or like who needs extra potions, or who's
Wait,
using extra potions when they don't. And that's why Bob gets extra too, because like I see him using him. I'm like, okay, Bob's gonna need extra, right? So I always try to send him an extra stack or two, depending on what the content is. Like our arcane mages get sent extra stack of injectors every week. Um,
dude, that's literally like
Casmo always gets extra haste.
you're okay.
Um,
It's so funny because you're talking about you see me use it. That reminds me of doing budgets, yearly budgets in IT, and you always were like, we have to use it or we'll lose it. Like we have to use it
Yeah.
all, so we will
that's
We won't
find
be able
something
to
to get
justify our
to
budget.
make sure that we keep this budget and somebody else doesn't take our budget.
Well,
So that's
I actually
hilarious.
had to I felt like I had to say something because when the first reports were getting posted, it doesn't include my
pre.
pre-popped Mighty
Yep.
Rage or my pre-popped Stone Shields,
I just
and
took those out.
I was like, "I use these. Please keep
It's like,
these in
yeah,
here."
please
I'm
keep
using
making them.
So
Yes, I take like, look at how many I take out. I'm not selling these, I'm
Right,
popping
right,
these.
right.
real
Like
quick though, you said ironforge.pro. Did you mean
no.
warcraftlogs.com?
Ironforge.pro has a log analyzer.
Okay, we need could you like before I publish the show, can you give me that link so I can
Sure.
include it in the show notes? Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
I will say, if you do end up using that tool, please do not try to look at it in the middle of a live logging raid. I did this last week, and basically now that week's report is just stuck on at the 45-minute mark. I had to go
Oh,
through and do it by hand off the
good.
regular logs this time,
Yeah.
which not
Good
that big
call,
of a
good
deal,
call.
but like it's really easy just to see it all summed up in one place. Um, Here, let me pull up the Excel sheet actually, because I think this will be a little more informative.
So So yeah, like and now it's gone to the point to where my boots of blasting pattern dropped. I was able to get the nethers, and then the guild bag provided mats to different characters of ours that could craft 2 pieces of cloth at a time to get the 4 spell cloth and the 4 shadow cloth that we needed. And my boots of blasting basically cost me my 2 nethers, the 2 pieces of rune thread that you get from the vendor, and then my
I forgot to give you rune thread.
and then my boar speed enchant. Although I think, did the guild bank pay for the enchant too?
Yep.
I think
got
it did. Yeah.
For that.
So
Yeah.
it's just
I'm still looking
nuts.
at
It's
that, yeah.
and it's crazy that you're able to do that much for the guild when like it would cost people a fortune otherwise.
It's like
Yeah,
actually
I
nuts
mean,
because Kim was like pretty timid going into it. Kim was like, "Yeah, it would be nice if we were able to like gem a piece or 2 every night." And I remember being like, "Yo, yeah, like I feel like
We
we got
didn't
a
even
good amount
talk
in
about
here."
gems.
And now suddenly it's like, "Oh, we'll craft here. We're crafting items and
Crap.
we're doing enchants," and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like we're going to broke, which is like an insane boon on the guild.
We didn't even talk about gems. Stoof like carries around all the gems for people and then cuts them for their recently dropped items too. Now, there is a stipulation on the enchants and the gems. It has to be current tier BIS, not second BIS, BIS.
Yeah, because if you're gonna replace that, bitch, please don't come out with that. You know, like
Yeah, we don't want to go fully broke. There are
Right,
more
yeah. Like,
tiers of
it
content.
is still something, like of a consideration, like you can always argue the case like, bro, I have no DKP, like I'm gonna be using this for a while. Like, okay, in that case, maybe, right? Like, but I'll have to look at the item and like the difference between the best and be like, yay or nay. And I don't think I've said no yet. So, yeah, like we got Wap Slime, his healing enchant on his Lights Justice that dropped, and I'm like, you know what, like it's a huge upgrade for him. So like, dude, we'll just hook him up and Skeet's a dude, man.
Yeah,
So,
I was just
especially someone who's gonna re-roll for the guild to be like a classic.
exactly.
Like someone
I
who's
know
able to give
Skeet
enough.
I
has
was
put
just
in
gonna
his
call
fair
him
share of time. So
Yeah,
I was just gonna call him Skeet and never bring that horrible name of his shaman into the podcast, but you just did it, so it's there.
what?
Oh.
okay.
Okay, yeah, okay. If Kim doesn't know what it means, then we just won't even talk about it. Okay. All right, so we are coming to a close here. I mean, we probably could talk about this forever. And, Kim will give the ways you can maybe contact him if you want to, like, maybe any discords that he's in at the end of the show. And if you want to, like, throw your thoughts at him.
Yeah, his work email he'll hand out. So
Yeah.
So
it's at .gov.
Yeah.
So, but just to close it out, like, how sustainable is this? And I think I know the answer. I think it's as sustainable as you keep doing it. But I just want to know, how sustainable? Are there any more plans for the future?
I have honestly been like churning it out recently. I did a full accounting of like consumes and stuff that we've used as guild. And it totals around 18K so far in phase 2. So it's definitely not cheap, but also I crank out stuff enough to the volume where like, it's like what is that like? If I didn't do this, that would just be like gold that I would have not doing anything, because like where am I going to spend that gold? Like what am I going to do with it, right? Like I don't need like ludicrous amounts of gold. Like I'd rather have like a better time in raid and like have all my friends having fun, like that's way more worth it to me.
We're going to ludicrous speed.
I do hope as well too that as things get on farm, we can be in periods of like bank building where we go from expending that, hey, like we're actually making gold.
That's
This can go into the guild bank. Oh, we're bored, so we can anything that we make can go into the guild bank because we have to prepare for future progression. Like
Mhm.
going in, not worrying, like we got to get our tabs as Black Temple comes out, puts us in
Yeah.
a better situation than when SSC came
that's
out.
that's exactly what I was kind of trying to point to. Like, do you close the tabs off once stuff's farmed? Like that's
No.
basically like
Quality of
what I was
life.
asking.
I'm not gonna take it away immediately unless I have to.
Yeah, maybe like amounts would make sense. Like we shouldn't need maybe as many mana pots when things are on
Right.
farm. We won't need as many flasks as we can elixir more when things are on farm.
Well,
There
Yeah,
hold
might
on
be less
though.
but that's really
distance dropping.
where
I
the
w-
extra analyzing allotment comes from, right? It's like I'm going through to see like are we actually using the allotment? Like, is everyone using their allotment first of all, and is someone going above that, right? And if they're using extra, and like if I haven't provided them extra, that to me too is a big indicator. Like, hey, I want to be providing this person with stuff because like they're also paying out of pocket additionally in order to like make our raids go better. That's the type of person I want to like fully back and like provide stuff to.
see,
So going through logs is like a really really big part of this too. Like unexpectedly so. Like I thought it would be not like it'd just be, oh, it's cool. Look at me using like 35 Destro pots last week. Ha ha ha. But like it's actually really, really helpful to see like who's doing what with their consumes. And it really gives me a good picture of like where things need to go. And it's like smartly routing my money more so. Or G Bank's money rather.
I mean,
So
it's
like
super adjacent to monitoring logs for cooldown usage and stuff like that.
totally.
When we're trying to see, like, why didn't we kill Vash? Like, what are we not doing here? Like, the G Bank, like you said, is filling all those gaps. Like, oh, these people don't have these enchants on. These people don't have like the more expensive gems, or they didn't, they didn't opt for this item. They don't want to craft that item because it costs 2,000 gold. Like all these things if you wanted to buy the boots of blasting patterns or something, they're like 5,000 gold. All these things that you can't obtain without the help of the guild. I feel like all that goodwill is going back in and pulling everything together.
well, and then another thing is like I don't always use the consumes that I pull out on like say Tuesday, right? But then I will use those on Thursday, but I'll pull out different consumes. Like I always end up using the consumes in raid, but basically I use Tuesday and Thursday to get all the stuff that I need. So like I'll get food, once a week, and oftentimes that's enough. Whereas like then I'll get oil twice a week because oftentimes I'll have to use all of that. Like, so it's kind of like tit for tat.
Yeah, I
A little
indiscriminately take iron shields and mighty rays. Just like
well
click, 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 click.
those are specifically
Yeah,
there
there's no
for
one else.
you only. So feel
I'm
free,
like,
man.
it's so fun. I'm
Um
always like click, 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 click. And it's nice that
it's
I
slow
know that
too.
it's like if there's extras, I'm just like, I only use these in raid. It's just nice to know that I have all of these and I don't have to think about them. Like life is
Yeah.
just so good these
Like
days.
it makes rating like a lot less stressful. I feel like, like for me the most stressful part of a week is right before raid when I'm like collecting everything and be like, what did I forget? What did I forget? And like I'm just
Yep.
Yep.
like looking at
Dude,
at my bank, looking at my mail, I'm like,
you should have been a
ugh,
warrior in Classic because
Oh
literally
no.
we
Yeah.
had 17
Oh,
things.
he knew he tanked. He knows
yeah,
about the.
yeah. Oh god, yeah, the
Ugh.
different sets and blah blah blah.
Did the
I mean,
tanks use as many as DPS warriors did?
more,
Oh, you did,
more.
didn't you? Yeah, you did.
All of our buffs we
Well,
had the
you
buff limit
didn't
was a
use.
huge issue for us.
Yeah, you actually didn't use more because you just used different
No, we used some
ones.
more.
Well, because like I would lose buffs lots of times, so you probably weren't.
No,
Although people
tanks
just
lose
weren't
buffs.
putting as much stuff on you.
Yeah, we have to take stuff off
No more
ourselves as
renews. No more renews.
yeah. Yeah. Tanks had a ton in class. It was very unfortunate, but
Yeah, because I remember the first time I lost world buffs because they got pushed off on Saffron, and you were like, "Oh, Bob, welcome to the club," and I was like, And that's when I made the macro to take everything I didn't need off with
Yeah.
with bloodthirst. But unless you guys have any closing remarks, I think we've come to the end of the show.
Well, I'd like to make a little note on like the sustainability aspect of it.
Okay.
It, I think what I've done this past week is I've reached the point of sustainability, at least for this week at least, and I've reached a point of making profit, which I haven't actually been making profit myself for a couple weeks now. Just trying to like get the coverage, but like um I basically, I think I've gotten into a nice flow. I think my weekly average at this point is like just under 100K spent and 100K earned, um, which is it's a lot. I mean, yesterday alone, I think I spent 27K.
He used the word just.
Just
I couldn't afford my repair 2 days ago.
yeah, but like it's a lot of like circulation. It's just really nice that the operating profit can like part of the operating profit can basically cover all of GBank's consumes, right? That's really like the sweet spot at this point is like, can I cover it all and can I make a profit in the process? And the only way to do that really is just to like just make a bunch of shit that like people need, and like honestly having a nice amount of capital to kind of like lock down certain amounts of herbs and stuff like that beforehand, before you know like shit's gonna hit the fan if you don't buy these out yourself. Right, like I've run into the situation where I was like looking at Nether Bloom and I was like, oh, that's a really good price, there's a bunch of them on the market, but I don't feel like it right now. I'd rather go and craft some other things. I come back, Nether Bloom's up to like 3 gold like it was today. Yeah, it's like watching stuff like that and keeping an eye on the amount of like volume as well as like transactions going through per certain types of herbs or like materials that you need is a really massive part of the game if you want to work in quantity like this. Like just having like a baseline knowledge of what you're dealing with and what you're going to end up needing is like, it's like more than half the battle, really. So my advice to anybody that wants to start doing this, just basically don't don't go too hard in the beginning. You could get burned pretty badly by people that are better diversified than you and have more capital and can flush you out. I've seen this happen a couple times. Me in particular in certain cases, but yeah, like it's definitely like it's a little, it's like a weird math PvP that I like to do. You know, like you're always trying, like I know basically all my competitors' names now, right? Like I know who's posting which things at what times and stuff. Like I mean, I'm not like stalking
In
them or
tune with
anything, but
Yeah, you're in tune with their sleep schedule, you know, when they won't be back to post.
yeah, it's like
I
this
get
guy's
it.
raiding now. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, but like it's just basically good to know what's out there, like especially what frequency at which other people will post and undercut you as well. That's a really big part of it as well, because you can just end up posting, be like, okay, everything's up. I'm gonna go and do a dungeon, and then come back in like 2 days and check on my auctions, and you'll be sad to find that you've only sold 100 gold worth out of like 2,000. You will want to actually like have a decent amount of like lesser experience with it first in order to kind of know the players a little bit. I think that's a little that's something that people won't really say, but I think is actually really big, is understand the other like crafters on your realm or on your side, right? Like, because you don't want to be running into that guy, I guess like me, that would just like has like 40 of the same flask in his inventory. He sees you undercut him. He doesn't even need to cancel. He just posts right over you, right? Like that's just how it's done, right? And you don't want to run into things like that too often if you're just starting out, because that can get really discouraging really quickly.
Yeah.
right? It's like, damn it, I'm trying so hard. Like, I have thousands of gold tied up in these flasks, and I didn't sell them in time, and now the flask price has dropped, and now I'm losing money on this, right? Like, you don't want to run into that kind of situation. The other tip I want to give is just like, if you're going to start doing this, do it with stuff that you yourself can use, right? Because you don't want to run into a situation where you're like holding on to something that you just have to dump and you're not going to end up using, and you're going to lose gold off of that. Like, instead of like losing gold, you could just use it and, wait that timer out until it resets and then start posting again, right?
And remember, a penny saved is a penny earned, guys. If you use it, you made that profit technically.
I mean, yeah, like honestly,
you saved it.
Like last on Tuesday, I used 35 Destro pots just purely out of like procs and stuff like that,
Wow.
right? Yeah. Here's some numbers before we close it out. Phase 2 Destro pot usage 333. Bobby used 86. Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Haste pots 203. Mana pots 1649. Castellan, one of our arcane mages, is responsible for 222.
That would be our
incredible.
GM's girlfriend.
It's insane.
Arcane mages.
Yeah, arcane mages. Damn.
She
Yeah,
pumps though.
I
She
mean-
pumps.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why I don't mind just funneling mana pots. Yeah. Also, if you're gonna be trying to make a bunch of mana pots to help your raid out, I would highly advise partnering up, or if you have engineering on a character, get the injector recipe. It will save you so much space.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
for anybody that doesn't know, they stack at 20 instead of 5.
Yeah. The cost, to turn 4 stacks of 5 into 20 is 1 fell iron casing, 1 fell iron bolt, and 2 knothead leather, which is not expensive of an increase. On some servers, I'm sure they sell for a decent chunk more, just because of the luxury that they stack. And if you're like me and you make, literally thousands of mana pots per week, you don't want the regular potions clogging up your bag space, because that's 200 slots. Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, that was a lot of good information. We could probably go on forever, but we have to get to Lady Vash. So you all know
Which we
how it
killed.
ended, but
Yeah, which you already know how that we killed her.
we don't know how it ends. So we're gonna go find that out.
Oh,
and,
we know, Bob. We know. She's going down today.
I'm hoping so. But
I think I'm gonna stop carrying around the materials for Belt of Blasting so that the pattern can actually drop. I've been
Sure.
carrying around these mats for like the past couple weeks. Like,
Yeah.
if the
You're
pattern
the
drops,
jinx.
I'm just gonna craft it. Ha ha ha. Nope.
all right. Well, no add-on of the week this week. I'm going to save mine again, and hopefully you guys send us some in or something, or we might just have
I
to
have
start
one.
doing. Okay, let's move on to add-on of the week.
Have you guys? I don't think you guys have discussed Guild Book in here, right?
No.
We haven't.
So I picked up Guild Book, and I think it's one of those add-ons that is really helpful if like a lot of people in your guild have it.
Kind of like a tune. It's as helpful as everybody using it.
Totally. Because there's like a syncing, like SYNC, syncing like that happens between the different add-ons between characters. And basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to see who has what patterns on what profession throughout your entire guild. So like Mel was asking, I think on Tuesday, like, hey, do you have the Belt of the Long Road? And I was like, maybe. And then like I look in Guild Book, I'm like, I'm an idiot. I'm the one that has that pattern. Like I was like, who has that pattern? I was like, oh, it's me. Huh. But if you're not an idiot like me, then you could basically, like you could just look up whatever you need, and if someone has it, like, we know that known as bore speed, um, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It changes your guild tab, shows their active professions, gives a lot of information. It does kind of clog up a little bit of. There's probably
It
settings I
is.
could go and change,
It
but
is a little hefty.
when you're on something that's used for crafting, it'll tell you every pattern that it can craft, and I'm gonna have to look into how to
Oh
turn that
yeah,
off because it'll like kind of push off other information from
the
TSM when
TSM
I'm
info.
hovering over. But
Totally.
it's
I had
been
that problem with the
more
vials.
useful than not useful. But yeah,
Yeah. I think it just becomes way more useful when more people have it too, though. So
definitely. All right, guys, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at WC Reloaded. You can follow the Mash Those Buttons Network at the Mash Network. If you want to send us an email and have it read on the show, as long as if it's too long, we're not going to be able to do it. But if you want to send that to us with anything you want to say, that's wcrpodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to join our Discord, nobody does this, so I don't know why I mention it every week, but it's mash.gg/Discord, and you will have to ping us until it's popping. We're not going to be checking it daily, so definitely send us a ping if you're wanting something from us there. And then, how can you up the podcast? By sending ratings and reviews and telling people about the pod. Telling people about the pod's probably the best, but I mean the iTunes reviews really do help us show up in Google search and probably their search algorithm too. You could also leave ratings and reviews on warcraftradio.com. All right, Yip, where can we find you?
Hi, you can find me on Twitter at Cognitive Pit or on YouTube at youtube.com/Cognitive Pit.
Awesome. And Kim, where can people find you if they want to like shoot you some questions or just maybe tell you something?
find me.
You can't. Okay, you're not like a priest Discord or a.
I'm in a priest Discord, but I'm not really anyone important there.
Yeah, in a couple of weeks, I'm gonna talk to Kim. We'll have a $1,500 start your own G Bank guru package available for you. Training sessions
You're gonna have
included.
to go to the Radisson and
Yeah, join our free webinar.
Well, if you do have any questions for Kim or anything, you can always send that to the email at wcrpodcast@gmail.com. We'll make sure it gets to him. If you'd like to
I'm
find.
always oh sorry I'm always also like I'm always open to receiving in-game mail as well. I think there's a fair amount of people on the server that kind of know me anyway, so yeah.
Good deal.
I talk to a lot of people in whispers. Feel free to reach out. I had someone yesterday that messaged me about, hey, like they talk about you on the podcast. Cool to see you. Like, yeah. I mean, like I'm totally receptive to like random people messaging me. I'm not like a scary guy or anything, except in shadow form. Yeah.
All right. Well, and you can find me on Twitter at Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. And you can find me on Twitch, sometimes streaming at twitch.tv/BlazzinBob. I think I'm going to stream tonight, actually, because I'd like to have our Kill of Vash on, VOD for future, because I get to look at the next one.
Right now, other than
It
live.
might be. All right. Well, guys, thank you for giving us your time and hanging out with us. We love you, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. I had to do a higher pitch than you.
Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Pausing.
All right. I am
I
gonna,
need to
for time's
eat
sake,
before we
I'm
do
not gonna
raid.
raid anybody. Thank you guys in stream for hanging out. We'll see you guys later, and we're out.